Hi guys, welcome to the latest podcast of YarninBlak. So I've got a great mate on, Isaiah. I'll introduce you to him in a second. But first I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that I'm currently calling in from. I'm here in Baldwin Q on the land of the Wurundjeri people. I'd like to pay respect to the elders past, present and emerging. And I'd like to acknowledge any other Aboriginal people that are with us today, including my guest, Isaiah. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine. For people that don't know you, give us a little intro. Who are you? Where are you from?
My name's Isaiah. I'm a proud Melukerdee man from Huon Valley, Tassie. However, spent my whole life in the Mornington Peninsula.
Cool.
Yeah.
And where do you work at the moment?
So I work at Derrimut Willem Gathering Place. It's an Indigenous gathering place it's located in Mordialloc.
Yep. So what
Yeah.
made you decide to work with community?
Um, since a young age, I sort of was engaging with community. My dad used to take me to youth groups, and then I sort of got offered to run a youth group, and everything sort of snowballed from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you said that you grew up in the Mornington Peninsula.
hmm
So that's on Bunurong land.
Yeah, Bunurong country.
And you went to school, or you're schooling down there then, obviously.
Yeah.
So while you're at school, how much Aboriginal issues did you actually learn growing up?
Um, we didn't actually learn too much. I'm aware that my little brother coming up now is learning quite a lot, and I'm quite impressed. But as for me, didn't learn much in primary school, if any, if I can remember. I don't actually think remember learning anything really. And then in high school, year 10 history was all about the world wars, and about like pop culture. It didn't really focus on it, and that's why my dad was taking me out of classes. And like every second Wednesday or something, he would take me out of class and take me to men's group because it was like this is your education is important. However, your cultural growth is going to shape who you are as an individual. So yeah.
So at the moment you're studying as well. What are you studying?
Yes, I'm studying a Diploma of Community Services. Yeah.
Yeah. And are you learning anything about Aboriginal people in that course?
Yes, we are. We have an actual there's a whole dedicated unit um, to it sort of covers a little bit about the basics of Indigenous culture, like how our families are different, like kinship connections, stuff like that. But then it also looks into um, like how to work safely with Aboriginal people in the space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Do you think there's still a huge belief out there about non-Indigenous people with stereotypes about Aboriginal people?
Oh, yeah, I mean, stereotypes still run true, of course. Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest ones that I can sort of think of is, and look, you're gonna have to pardon my language, but like, you've got the dole bludgers stereotype, which is a huge one. But then you've also got the ones where it's like, if, oh, you're not black, like physically black, so you're not Aboriginal. So that you've got those types that still run true, and you still have to sort of be like, no, it's not necessarily the case. There's more to it than just that. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
And what percentage are you? And how far
Yeah,
do you go?
yeah, exactly. All of those questions, it's like I don't actually know. I don't know what percentage I am. Just happy, like I know I'm black, and no one can tell me otherwise.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you would see a lot of young people coming to the gathering place,
Mm.
some connected to culture, some not connected to culture. But those that are wanting to know more and have just started their journey or just found out recently they're Aboriginal, what would you advise them where to start? What should I do to find out more?
Um, a lot of it depends on how much information you do already have. Some people are blessed to know where they come from, or at least what lands they come from. Uh, for a very long time, I was just Tassie mob. We didn't know exactly where, but we knew we were Tassie mob. Um, so I would definitely recommend going to, like, if you know you're from, if you know your Koori, go down to somewhere like KHT or something like that and have a yarn. However, I would highly recommend just going to a Indigenous gathering place, full stop, like just a community, because that's a collective of everybody, First Nations all over Australia,
Yeah.
right? And then you get to learn from your elders, right? And you get to sit with your elders. That would be my biggest recommendation, is to just sit and listen and share what you want to share. And they're usually pretty open and, open arms. Yeah.
And I think that you raised a good point there about, listening to the elders, because they've been around for a while and they know people that know people. And as soon as
Hmm.
you start talking about your story, it triggers in them, oh, I know Uncle Brad, or I know Uncle John, or I
Hmm.
know somebody that this story sounds familiar, and I'm pretty sure I can link you in with
100%.
Uncle
Yeah.
somebody to have that connections there.
Yeah, 100%. And it's also good to be around other people who may have experienced a similar journey to you as well.
Yeah,
Right. So may have experienced that unknown, that, okay, I know I know there's some connection there, but I don't know where to go. Can I enter this space? All those questions, like, can I enter this space as someone who's just found out I'm Aboriginal, or all of those type of things. But it's really nice to just, because it's just a very welcoming and open community. Yeah.
do you think it's hard for people to connect if they recently found out?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of barriers. I mean, I had the privilege of having my father sort of grab me and pull me along, right? So I always had someone there with me. Um, but definitely, because you'd be like, I think there may be a lot of shame that comes with that, and there shouldn't be, but there definitely may be a lot of shame that comes with that, in the sense of, should I now be entering this space because I haven't been brought up in my culture? Um, but you don't need to know anything, and that's why I always recommend to just sit and listen and just come in. But it's always, I mean, the Aboriginal community is a very welcoming community, um, and there shouldn't be that shame, but I do think there are a lot of barriers to coming in. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Cultural safety is a big word that gets thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
What makes you feel culturally safe?
I think I can't really pinpoint it to one example. I could
Yeah,
definitely talk about examples that made me feel culturally unsafe, but what makes me feel culturally safe is being able to enter any space, whether it's an Aboriginal space or it's a non Indigenous space, and feel like I can just express who I am as an Aboriginal person without those barriers, without the feeling of being judged. I think that's what cultural safety is to me, and to also then, I guess, in the sense of like a cultural safety in the sense of a service delivery and stuff like that. I think cultural safety is understanding the differences that First Nations mob need,
yeah,
and then being able to go, all right, we'll assist you with this the way that best suits you.
yeah.
Yeah.
I actually like how you define that. That was actually a really good way of actually defining it, because I think people sometimes forget that it isn't the the service provider that gets to call whether they feel culturally safe or not.
Mm,
Actually, the client or the person themselves who says whether or not they feel culturally safe accessing.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us a time though you had it where you mentioned it was easier to talk about. feeling culturally unsafe?
Yeah. I mean, I won't go into super
Yeah,
specifics. However, um, I think feeling culturally unsafe was, it was actually through lateral violence. So
yeah,
it's, lateral violence, for people who don't know, is mob on mob violence, basically. Um, and there was a major power dynamic. Um, and anyway, there was just lots of, you feel sort of like you can't express your culture or your opinions without being shut down, or at least, like, I'm never going to sit here and say all my ideas are right, but I would at least like to have the opportunity to have them heard fairly,
yeah,
and so, yeah, it's just consistently shut down, and it was just a not so good power dynamic, I guess, that was going on in
yeah.
um, that place. Yeah.
And I think that what people don't always get is that lateral violence that does exist in community.
Mm.
That it is there, and it doesn't matter what you do. There's someone watching you, and whether it's out of jealousy or whether it's out of them trying to prove you wrong or to
Yeah.
prove them right,
Mm.
they'll use underhanded methods in order to get their point of view across. But you're right that everyone's got their own point of view and everyone's got their own understandings, and
Mm.
not the one mob that all have the same beliefs and the same experiences. And rather than fighting each other,
Mm.
we should be listening to each other's stories or versions of the stories. And
Mm. 100%.
it doesn't just happen like that in community, does it? Like it's that violence is out there. We've seen it in
Yeah.
all organizations that we've worked at. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, the current organization, I'm actually pretty blessed. Yeah, like, I would say that the current organization that I work at is definitely the most culturally safe workplace I've ever worked in, which is lovely. But you're right, you see it wherever you go. And it's also my whole viewpoint on it as well, is that I don't think we're at a time where we can afford to have infighting. We can't afford to have infighting when we're still trying to work towards reconciliation, and we're still trying to work towards all these positive things. If we're having infighting, how are people who aren't First Nations going to be able to look in and go, all right, how are we going to help if they don't know what they want? Do you know what I mean? Like, it can act as a barrier to someone from the outside, then going, all right, how are we going to reach reconciliation?
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
reconciliation, you've mentioned it. What does reconciliation mean to you?
It's another loaded word, isn't it? It means to me, want to get my words right. It's how we move forward as a nation. I think that's reconciliation in a very, like, one sentence, right? I think, yeah, it's how we move forward as a nation. You're white fella, black fella, whatever term you fall under. Where do we go from here together,
Yeah.
right? I'm actually not a particular fan of the word reconciliation, because reconciliation means two friends who had a fight fixing it. And we're doing the fixing part, right? But were we ever an established relationship to begin with? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's definitely stories of good interactions with first arrival. I know of that, but we never had an established relationship. So I think that term is, um, I'm not necessarily a fan of the word reconciliation, but I'm definitely a fan of as to depict what's happened and going on. However, I'm definitely a fan of what's happening in the space of moving forward and what we're doing in terms of reconciliation. Yeah.
I always say to people, I think one of the first steps of reconciliation from a non-Indigenous perspective is to actually have a really good look at what reconciliation means to you.
Mm.
And have you reconciled Aboriginal history to yourself? Have you reconciled your lack of understanding that you may not have grown up with this knowledge, or I don't know this stuff.
Mm.
And that's where I think allyship comes in as well. To be an effective ally, you need to step back and actually go, whoa, what don't I know? Admit that I don't know enough in order to want to know more. And if I want to know more, then I'm going to have to link myself to like either a gathering place or Aboriginal friends or Aboriginal services to do that research to find out more about Aboriginal culture. And I need to do that before I can start reconciling with people.
Yeah. Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, you need to sort of, what's the story that you're trying to fix?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Question: what do you enjoy most about working with mob?
Honestly, just I enjoy most of the company of my elders. I enjoy being able to sit there, just listen to their stories, being bossed around. I think it's all very important to shaping who. Look, my elders have been crucial in shaping who I am. Both the elders that I currently see on a daily or weekly basis, but also the elders that in the past who have also been there for me. So yeah, the company of elders. I think it's also more broadly too. Like I've had a very good upbringing. Um, been very fortunate, but I know that a lot of mob haven't. And so I think I sort of pushed myself to just work in the space in general.
Yeah.
Because I've had a good upbringing. I can now try and use that to benefit other people. Yeah.
Do you have to remind yourself sometimes of the privilege that we actually have had, where some of our mob haven't actually had those opportunities?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I don't. I think it's like it's pretty. It's pretty. Sometimes it just flies under the radar, and then sometimes it's pretty in your face, especially when you hear some of the stories of the people who were actually there, like the elders who were there when these major events were occurring, right? I mean, I'm not even mid-20s yet, right? And so everything that my elders went through, everything that they've fought for, set me up so didn't have to go through all of that. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, definitely. Like, there's what elders have been through, what other mob as well, not necessarily elders, have been through. Like, I think, it's an array of different experiences, and you do have to be very mindful of where people are coming from and what's going on in the background. Just like when you're working with anyone, right? Like any community, but yeah, you just got to be mindful of what's going on.
Yeah. And I think that you picked up a really great point there, which I don't think a lot of non-Indigenous people get, and that is how recent in history a lot of this stuff really is. Because like
Mm,
you said, this is stuff that elders have actually lived through themselves, and those elders are here right now,
yeah,
still here to share their stories. This is not stuff from 200 years ago. This is
no,
stuff from it's not just colonization, and
Mm.
it's not just stolen generations. It's experiences that our elders and our community and our mob have been through, and in some stages are still going through right now.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And it's yeah, I mean, it's definitely not this. I think people, you're quite right. People think, okay, well, colonization happened then, or stolen generation happened then. I wasn't alive, you weren't alive, so let's just get over it. But it's definitely just not the case.
That's their reconciliation.
Yeah, exactly right. It's a very, it's a very easy way to remove yourself from it, right? It's a very, I think that's why it's done. Very easy to remove yourself away from it. You know, I didn't do anything. Um, you know, and like I can understand that viewpoint, but you also need to understand the trauma that comes, the trauma that has also come passed down intergenerational trauma as well, and all of those things that most mob do probably have in one state sense or another, right?
Yeah.
And so that's something that, you know, even if mob haven't experienced anything, they most likely still do have intergenerational trauma just from, and it doesn't even, you know, and so there is things still going on in people that do need to be recognized and do need to be addressed. Yeah.
Do you have any Aboriginal role models growing up?
Um, we found out we were mob when I was about 10 or so,
Yeah.
10 to 12, something around that age. That's when Dad got connected. Um, and then, yeah, I did have a lot of Indigenous role models once Dad started taking me to these groups and stuff. I think the most pivotal role model for me would have been Uncle Alvin. He sort of came in my late teens. Um, and I'm still very close to him today. Like, I go down and see him all the time. But he sort of just he pushed me to be more. But he also reminded me to take a step back as well and just breathe and just, you know, it's like pushing me to do what I can, you know, always do better, but also reminding me that I can't fix the world in a day, and to just go for a walk and center yourself. So he really helped instill those, I guess, grounding techniques in me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lovely story.
Yeah.
That's a lovely story. And it's so good that he's still here to share your journey as well.
Yes, definitely.
Um, you don't often get young Aboriginal men often going into community services areas.
No. Yeah.
Um, what's the feedback been like about you studying and going into welfare?
The feedback has been, sorry. I've already, like, there's lots of people sort of pulling your arms in this direction and that direction, going, hey, if you ever want a job, or hey, if you ever want a job, you know, trying to sort of poach me, I guess. And I'm quite comfortable where I am now, right? I'm very happy where I am right now. However, yeah, I think it just shows how much of a need there really is. I would definitely highly recommend it to any young fellas out there, because it's you'll be fine. Like, it's good. It's fine in the classes, and everything like that. But I just think it will be I think the welfare system, it's just the ratio of women to men is just um, quite unbalanced. Um, and then even with the fellas that are going in, it seems to be sort of older fellas as well, right? Like 35 and upwards, that they seem to be entering the space.
Yeah.
And so but I'm loving it. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Yeah.
Because my son's about the same age as you,
Hmm.
and he did the Diploma of Community Services, Diploma of Youth Work, and he's currently working at Mullen Indigenous Gathering Place
Oh, deadly.
as the youth worker there. And I think he would feel exactly like what you were saying as well. It is very female dominated area,
Mm.
but I think also for being a young male, having a female dominated area is actually can be quite helpful because those aunties look after you as well.
Yeah, correct.
They'll
No,
protect you. Whereas some of the older men, yes, they are protective, don't get me wrong, but they're more in the tough kind of love. And
yeah,
sometimes working when we do, we need those aunties.
yeah, no, 100%. I call it, I tease Uncle Alvin, I call it uncle treatment because 1 minute he'll give you a hug and says, I love you. And then next minute he'll push you down the stairs just to remind you that you're still below me. You're right. Just
Yeah.
that power dynamic. But 100%. I mean, I think it's actually quite nice working with a team of women. They're naturally maternal anyway. They're very caring, um, very staunch.
Yeah.
Right. There's just, but yeah, I mean, whatever welfare sector you go into. I mean, I work at a gathering place right now, but I think whatever whatever community services area you go into, you probably will be seeing more women than men. It's just how it is, right? Um, but that can change.
That can.
That
And
can change.
we need it to change. We need a lot more males, especially for a young. I think I work with a lot of young Aboriginal males that
Mm,
actually do need to see more male role models, and
correct.
not just uncles in community, but actually professionals that
Mm,
in positions that can show them how to help and where to help and help
yeah,
navigate the systems that do exist there.
yeah, like an Aboriginal liaison, right? It's that type of idea. Like you go to someone who's Indigenous because they're going to just understand all of that stuff already. You don't have to explain what's going on. But then on another level, it's like, all right, I want to go see a bloke because he's going to get it,
Yeah,
and then there's all that men's business stuff that you just like, and not necessarily deep cultural men's business stuff, but just day to day men's business, you know? It's like, I don't necessarily feel comfortable talking to a female about this.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of questions left for you, and one of them is, if I had $1 zillion and a magic wand,
Mm-hmm.
give it to you, right?
Mm.
And you could fix anything in Aboriginal affairs, where would you start? What would you do?
Oh, fix anything. It's coming in with the loaded questions, eh?
It's going to be easy talking to me, eh?
No, definitely not. No, it's a good question, though. It's a great question. Um, I think we don't think about it because we're like, you know, we're always like, okay, this is what we're dealing with. But if I could fix anything, I'd probably get the treaty done.
Yeah,
And I know Mob are working so bloody hard on that, and they're doing incredible work in that space right now. But if I could just snap my fingers, get it all sorted, 100% would, right? Like I think a treaty is so important for again that recognition, and then it's a piece of paper, it's a document, it's a signed document. Like we've got something. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
yeah,
So definitely the treaty would be deadly for all of Australia, and for all the nations, Aboriginal nations within Australia. And then I would also um, would love to have a real hard look at our justice system right now because I think that's always where my heart goes to is the all those young kids in detention.
yeah,
Um, And when I say young kids, I mean like my age as well, right? Like young fellas, young women. But the rates are just like the gap between Indigenous and non-Indigenous is just huge.
Yeah.
But I would just like send an influx of sort of support and diversion programs and stuff like that to try and redirect them onto a path of get them the help they need, right? Because I know there's more going on than just just the crime that's seen.
Yeah.
It's like, why are they doing that? Why? You know, it's all the trauma, it's all the mental health, it could be AOD, all those different things.
Yeah.
And so it's, you know, really, I think just need intense support in that area.
Yeah. And one thing you just brought up there, and I don't know if you realize that you said it, but it was a really great point, is that we respond to Aboriginal issues in a very reactive way. But what the ideas that you've just given us are really proactive ideas, if that makes sense. Because we do respond in Aboriginal people come to our services because they're in crisis.
Yeah.
They don't choose to go to community service organisations or the gathering place if everything's perfect. Or they are lost, they are confused, they are in need of support. And then they turn up and then we respond while in a reactive way. But what you hinted there is that those diversion programs and those things are about how do we look at the causes behind all this, that
Yeah.
start looking at it from a proactive model rather than a reactive model, and we might get some change.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I think yeah, it comes with a lot of investment, right? Doesn't it? Time, energy, money, all of that to be able to do that. But definitely, I think we need to stop trying to deal with major issues on the back foot. I feel like we're always on the back foot and it's just like go, go, go. You know, I feel sort of similar towards the child protection area as well. It just always feels back foot to me and just like, I'm not saying that people ain't doing the best work that they can do with what they've got available, but I just think there just needs to be more, whether that be external investment into it so that we can do proactive things so that kids aren't being locked up and, you know, kids aren't being taken away, stuff like that, right? Yeah.
And it's not really great 2025 data to hear some of that information, is it?
No.
Like Aboriginal kids, like was it 13 or 14 times the rate of non-Indigenous kids in out-of-home care, and there's more kids in out-of-home care now than ever in the history of Aboriginal affairs in this country.
Yeah.
That's not great 2025 data.
Yeah, you know, I think the sort of running theme now is like, wasn't stolen gen over? Do you know what I mean? Like that's what I've heard it being referred to a few times as is the modernized stolen gen, and you know I can see why so many people feel that way because how are we having so many of our kids being taken away?
Yeah.
Something's askew, something's not right there.
No. And I know that you're right. It does need an overhaul. The whole child protection system needs an overhaul. The whole justice system needs an overhaul. Because the saddest part is once you enter that system, it's really hard to get out of that system.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need all that proactive stuff.
Yeah.
My final question, and I know you've got to go, is what would you like people to walk away with from our yarn today?
Um, I guess for any mob out there who, whatever sort of wherever you sit in your cultural journey, if you aren't connected to a gathering place or some type of community centre with other mob, I would highly recommend it. Even if you just found out yesterday, it's probably the best place to go to. So I would highly recommend it. mob, you need to find a space where mob support mob, whatever that looks like for you. And I guess for like the wider Australia, non-Indigenous Australia, I would I'd just highly recommend that it's, we talk about these cultural safety workshops and we talk about all these wonderful things to do, but also I would recommend you don't view it as ticking a box, and I would recommend instead you view it as your personal development, who you are as a person, but B, just view it as getting to understand other fellow Australians better. Just view it as getting to understand your First Nations mob better, and as long as you're doing your best and you have the best intentions at heart and you're always willing to sit down and listen, and have a yarn, have a conversation, then I think we'll be fine. I think Australia will be great. Those are my two messages.
No, cool. I think that's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. Hey, I want to say thank you for joining me on this podcast. You know that I watch you and think. So that sounds a bit creepy, doesn't it? You know that I do watch out for you and making sure that that you're doing a wonderful job. I just want to let you know that you're an awesome young man, and I think you're going to do mob really well. So thank you. You do as well.
No, thank you. I really appreciate that. And thank you for this opportunity. It was lovely to sit and yarn with you and just have a chat. It was great. Thank you.
No problem. And guys, I'll see you at the next podcast then. Thanks, Isaiah.